The music is on, the disco ball has dropped, and it's time to get this party started. You are listening to DiscoTrek, a Star Trek Discovery after-party podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jeff Hewlett, and next to me at the turntable is the heart and soul of DiscoTrek, who I bet is really excited that she finally got her Captain Tilly moment, the always wonderful Heather Barker. How are you, Heather?
I love Captain Tilly. Thank you very much.
I knew you would.
As our listeners may be able to tell, I'm recovering from a cold, so I sound a little. This is mirror version, actually.
Mirror version
of Heather. There we go. I've got my goatee and my strange voice, but
Heather
that's why I sound a little.
I sense a Photoshop in your future here.
Oh, why did I say that? But very, very excited to be back. Excited to talk about this episode. And excited to have new guests as always.
Yes, I am too. And guys out there, watch the disco_trek Twitter feed for that Photoshop coming really, really soon. All right. So as we do on every episode of DiscoTrek, we have two guests with us who won our contest on the Facebook page that we'll mention here shortly. Tonight is the 10th episode of Discovery called Despite Yourself. We're going to be talking about that. And I guess we'll go through and introduce our guests first. First up is someone that we actually interviewed on the show floor at STLV last year in 2017. Nice to have her back on the show again. Welcome, Annie Muirhead.
Hi, Jeff. Hi, Heather. It's really great to be on the show for real now and not just in a corner of that big hall.
I think it was the vendor room, wasn't it? I think we were like way in the back of the vendor room, like huddled in a corner or in a doorway.
Yes, I think it was, and it was for bingo.
Yes.
And it was hard to find you. I had to ask people, "Where's Jeff? Where's Jeff?"
It was almost like Waldo, right? But I was there. And you won one of the prizes, didn't you?
I did. It was very exciting. I won a gift card to Shop LLAP.
Nice. That's right.
And we used it to buy her limited edition Mr. Spock's wardrobe print, which we now have and is absolutely gorgeous.
It is. I actually have one of those myself. I was so happy when it finally came. I'm getting it framed as we speak.
We did that before Christmas. Nice. It's definitely something that deserves a good frame.
Oh, it certainly does, guys. Yeah, everybody out there. Hopefully, we should put up a picture of that thing on the DiscoTrek page so everybody can see it. All right. So we also have another guest with us tonight, a member of our STLV family on Facebook, Mr. John Wesley Huff. How are you, sir?
Good. I'm incredibly excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, man. We're excited to have you. So. All right, so we're going to get started here. DiscoTrek, as you guys all know, is a community show. Each week we post a thread in the Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group on Facebook the Saturday before the Discovery airs, and responding to that thread can enter you into the drawing that will occur the Saturday before the show airs, where two winners will be chosen at random to appear on the following Monday's taping of the show. And as everybody knows, once you appear on the show, you can't be on again. But if you've been on the show or you haven't been able to win one of the contests, you can also contribute to the show by leaving us an up to 2-minute voicemail at area code 609-512-LLAP. That is 5527. You can leave us a voicemail there and we can play it on the show for you, or you can drop us an email or send us a tweet and we will read it out on the air as well. So DiscoTrek is also a kind of a loose format here. We kind of break the show up into 3 sections. We have Drop the Record, which is your opening marks and reactions to the episode. Play a New Track is what we learn from the episode, and we finish it off with Spin It Again, the moments that stood out to you in this episode. And I guess finally, before we get started with our conversation, I want to send a quick shout out to all of our Patreon patrons. Thanks for hanging in there with us, guys. We really, really appreciate your support for DiscoTrek and the Tricorder Transmissions Network. And if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can find us on patreon.com/the Tricorder Transmissions, or you can go to our website, thetricordertransmissions.com or shorelivepodcast.com, and click on the Patreon link, and you'll be taken to the page. Becoming a patron, of course, will give you instant access to all of our unedited episodes right after we record them, including this episode you're listening to right now, which will be available tonight after we're done recording it, and the rest of DiscoTrek and Shore Leave too. All right, so guys, let's dive into the opening remarks and fan reactions. And also want to mention really quickly, I was so excited this was a Jonathan Frakes directed episode. So awesome. So let's see, who should we start off with? Hey Annie, what are your reactions, initial reactions to this episode?
I loved it. I absolutely loved this episode. And I thought it was really impressive that they were able to, yes, prove all of our fan theories right, but still shock and surprise us. So it wasn't an hour of, oh, I knew that was going to happen. It was an hour of, yes, they're doing this. And oh my God, I did not expect that.
Nice. What about you, John? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely in the same camp. I think this might be my favorite episode of the show so far. Yeah, which is kind of a bold statement. I feel like I need to watch it again. I'd hoped to do that this week, but I actually ended up opting to watch the Enterprise Mirror episodes because I'd never seen those, and I thought, well, that'd be good. Yeah, good background for this. But yeah, I mean, I think the big caveat to that though is I think depending on how the whole Culber storyline shakes out, it'll either raise this in my estimation or maybe lower it a little bit. But that's the nature of serialized storytelling. So right now where we're at, like I really did love the episode. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought up the elephant in the room. I have some comments about that, but I will allow the lovely Heather Barker to go next before I throw out any of my stuff.
Man, Discovery keeps breaking my heart, y'all.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Look, yes, okay. I think that this episode, this was an amazing episode to come back to. Okay, the pacing was great. I was captivated the entire time. I immensely enjoyed it, except for what happened to Culber. And we're going to talk about that in more depth at some point tonight, I'm sure. I wish it had not happened, and not just from he's a great character standpoint. I'm not cool with it, and I'll talk about why later on. And that's why I say that it breaks my heart, because I really did love this episode. And if it wasn't for that happening, I would say that this is my favorite episode of the season. But because of that, I'm really torn up about it. I love that they went to the Mirror Universe. I thought it was a lot of fun. I love the new uniforms. Like, there's just so much that I did really like. But what happened was really, really bad. So it's just, God.
I know. I'm so with you on that, Heather. I am so on the fence in the middle on this episode. I mean, it answered a lot of the questions that we had, and of course made me eat a ton of crow. Because everybody who's listened to DiscoTrek knows I've been the one guy in the opposite camp that no, Tyler's definitely not Vogue. No way. Too much plot convenience. No way. And of course, the crow is in my hand and I'm going to eat it right now. But God, this was a boundary in Discovery that I was just not ready to have pushed. I mean, I can't even look at Ash Tyler now without seething. I don't even know how I'm going to be able to watch any more of these shows and not absolutely hate him and want to jump through the screen, because there have only been a few moments in television in my lifetime that I can remember where I actually yelled at the screen because something happened on the show that I just totally didn't expect. And this was one of them. I yelled almost as loud as I did at the season 1 cliffhanger of Battlestar Galactica where Adama got shot. And I screamed at the TV at that one. But God, oh my God, I was seething every minute of the show after what happened to Culber. And I really, really, really hope that they don't wind up trying to pin this on Stamets somehow in the next episode or something. Please, God, no. But on the positive, though, I don't want to sound all negative, but on the positive, I have to really commend the writing on this episode for tying itself so closely to Enterprise and being able to hold that continuity so perfectly. It was a great mix of nostalgia and the newness of Discovery, and where the past kind of trips into the Mirror Universe, the past trips that we went on in TOS and in Enterprise were kind of those fish out of water type stories. I like the fact that this one took a different tack and kind of gave the crew a leg up on where they were and how to conduct themselves. So it wasn't like they were just kind of flying blind and having to wing it. I like the fact that it's kind of an interesting take on the mirror line. The execution was really, really good. So, we as Trek fans in the audience were already familiar with the setting and we've been through it a couple times. So they didn't unfold it in a, oh God, we know all this already. Why are we watching this whole explanation of the mirror universe again? They did it in a way that was accessible to newbies, but it didn't, drag Trek fans through an unnecessary re-explanation of mirror. So I really, really enjoyed that. So,
yeah, I was going to say, I think too, one of the things I thought was really impressive about this episode is that the tone of it just felt really confident. And I think they managed to take the mirror universe, which is really, it's been so parodied. It's kind of an over the top concept, right? And they're marrying it with Discovery, which is by and large a pretty serious show. I mean, even though it has its comedic moments. And I just thought that was really impressive because in a lot of ways it reminded me of my first exposure to the Mirror Universe, which is actually the comic book, the Mirror Universe Saga, that DC Comics. That as a kid, I bought the graphic novel and I read that thing like over and over. And I think just the sense of fun that they had with it and the kind of just really just going for it and not holding back was one of the things I enjoyed most about the episode.
I absolutely agree with that comment about the sense of fun. I felt that in this episode more than I had in previous episodes. Despite the traumatic moment with Culber, it really felt like they were starting to have fun with the show in a way that Star Trek traditionally has done and that Discovery hasn't really done up to this point.
I feel like they sort of did with Magic to Make the Sanest Man Go Mad.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one, I thought that was a pretty fun episode myself.
Okay. I do agree with you there. That is my other favorite episode that they have done. And I hate time loops. So I was really impressed.
Yeah, it was the music. No. Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, God bless Tilly because she's just like the redeeming humor. And it's really interesting because when we first met Tilly, and I think I said like it took me some time to adjust to Tilly because she was so drastically different from everyone else that we had seen. And she just continues to blow me away and be this amazing, inspiring character, who I'll talk about more later.
Anybody else have any more observations and things they want to throw out? Initial reactions or things that jumped out to you immediately?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. All right. So we'll move along to our Play a New Track section. This is where we kind of go through the things that we learn about the Star Trek universe through this specific episode of Star Trek Discovery. Heather, what did you learn? What jumped out at you as something new?
Oh, I'm terrible at this. I picked out one really lame thing, and that was the technology used in this episode when Tyler when he is going to extract the data core from that Klingon ship, and he's using that hand, like
the worker bee.
Yeah, the worker bee.
Yeah, the worker bee and that technology. I thought that was pretty neat, and of course something that we never see again because, yada yada. But that was my one lame thing that I picked out. I didn't do my homework very well with this section.
Well, that's not lame, Heather, because that's also was on my list too. So if you're lame, I'm lame. And we both can't be lame.
I'm lame too, because my question seeing the worker bee was, why didn't they use that in the first episode when Burnham goes out to investigate the torch ship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been great for that mission.
Totally. Yeah. So, Andy, why don't you go ahead and continue?
Mostly what I picked up on that I was really impressed with that were new is you mentioned the continuity with the greater mirror universe. I noticed a lot of continuity within what we've seen on Discovery with just little details, like Tilly mentioning that her mother would love it because we've heard her say that her mom hates her hair. or when she shows up as Captain Tilly on the bridge and Lieutenant Reese is over in the corner looking completely turned on, and we saw him hitting on her a few episodes ago. Just little stuff like that I picked up on, and I'm like, wow, I'm impressed. And I think the biggest one I saw was Kayla Detmer has not said a word to Michael Burnham since she showed up on the Discovery. And as soon as Michael Burnham walks onto the bridge of the Shenzhou, Mirror Universe Kayla Detmer stands up, smiles, and applauds and says, "Welcome back." So for me, that was a really powerful moment that I feel was probably powerful for Michael Burnham as well.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because what you bring up, actually, it's one of those things that kind of drives me a little nuts because obviously, there's so much story going on that we don't have time to hit all these emotional beats. But I'm just dying to know what Kayla thinks of Burnham and how they're interacting. Like that's just like is like one of those things that they just kind of touched on a little bit early on, and I just want to see them interact more so much. Like the our Kayla, I guess, but
yeah, she's always like just there. She's like on the outskirts,
and
it's frustrating. I think that a lot of us are just waiting to get more from the rest of the bridge crew. And it's like they got a nice spotlight in this episode, but again, just you don't get much of anything from them, which is frustrating.
Yeah, that's one thing about Discovery that is a little bit different than prior Trek is that usually the most of the bridge crew gets a lot of time, and a lot of those characters become really main characters, but they're more ancillary so far on Discovery.
And it's kind of interesting to me too because that it sounds like I listened to the episode of like that went over David Mack's book. Desperate Hours, and it sounded like they pretty much let him name like all the background characters, come up with their backstories. So it's almost like they never really even planned to develop them that much, or they just maybe they just thought, hey, you've done a good job, let's go ahead and go with that. But I just think that's like an interesting wrinkle, like how much they ever planned on using them. Although there's been a lot of tweets and stuff about how you're going to see more of them, and there's more of them to come. So I think maybe they realized that, oh, hey, we've got kind of a gold mine, like people are interested in these people, so let's do something with it. But
I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. So John, do you have, or Annie, do you have anything else on your list before we move on to somebody else? Or
mostly I have like really nitpicky detailed stuff because that's how I watched it my second time around. Just little things like I also enjoyed watching the bridge crew watch Lorca do his Scottish accent. And poor Ensign Connor. Poor Ensign Connor. We had to watch him die again.
Yeah.
He was pretty funny on After Trek. He came on and they were talking about filming the fight scene, and that Sonequa Martin Green, one of the times that she kicked him a little low and not where she was supposed to. And it's pretty hilarious to watch that part. So I don't know if anybody's not seen it, go like kind of fast forward or however, I don't know. I hate CBS All Access right now, so I don't even know if you can fast forward. But that's his interview's funny. So props to Sam Bartholomeos.
I agree. Props to Sam. He's a great kid. I met him at STLV. But I think the biggest piece for me was the revelation that they didn't send the Klingon cloak data before they left the Prime timeline. They had time to send off Admiral Cornwell for medical treatment, but they didn't send that Klingon cloak data. And that adds just a sense of urgency to this little expedition in the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, they mentioned that very briefly, I think, in episode 9, because Lorca has like this little like throwaway line where they said like there's too much data to send. Or no, it was they couldn't come up with like a secure transmission, so they had to deliver it in person. So it's like just again, it's like a throwaway line. So you're like, oh, that's once they get stuck in another universe, that's obviously going to be a problem.
Yeah, I have to go back, and I think I missed that part.
Yeah. I think you also have the other sense of urgency that the brutal and terrifying Captain Tilly has been unleashed on the Prime universe. So they got to get back quick. You never know what she's going to do.
We've got to have like a one-off episode. I would just love a one-off episode of Captain Tilly in the Prime universe, like doing who knows what,
So do you guys think that we're like these last episodes are all going to be in this Mirror universe? Do you think we're going to make it back to the Prime timeline?
Well, they did say they're going to wrap this story arc in first season, right? The next season is going to be something different. So I guess they're going to have to get back some point before the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing. If they're going to try to wrap up the Klingon War, like if they're going to, I mean, assuming they ever get back to their universe, I mean, that's another big question mark probably out there. But I would think they'd need a couple episodes to kind of wrap up some of that stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me like they have a lot of unanswered questions in the Mirror Universe and a lot of potential for big character moments and character development as they see these other options and these other worlds. Also, they could definitely swing it so that they get back to the Prime Universe at the exact moment that they left it, and therefore we just have to send the plans. We just send that data, and we can finish the Klingon War up nice and tidy in like one episode.
Well, and it's like, I mean, the what was left of the war, it's like Cole's ship was destroyed, the sarcophagus ship or whatever. So like their leaders were all gone. L'Rell was with them, so it's like. Obviously, you have to clean up all the loose ends there, but it's just I'm interested to see how they'll wrap up this season. But obviously, it looks like we're going to be in the Mirror Universe for a little while.
Yeah, at least a couple episodes, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my gut feeling is we're at least like 3 episodes minimum at least. But
yeah,
how many do we have left? 5 after this one?
5. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe 2 or 3 more of these, and then back to the Prime Universe. But I did like the fact that they brought in that piece of continuity from Enterprise where they know they don't need the spore drive to get back because of Reliant's presence in the Mirror Universe. So that's kind of cool that they'll be able to figure that out and get back without having to utilize the spore drive.
It's a Defiant, right?
Defiant, sorry.
Reliant.
Why did I say? I always get those 2 ships reversed.
They sound the same.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm not going to edit that out. I'm going to leave that in.
You leave that in. You be proud of that.
We have a little bit. We have some honesty here on DiscoTrek.
I'm sure you're not the first nor the last Star Trek fan to make that swap.
I'm sure. Yeah. So, Heather, building off of your worker bee technology comment, I think another piece of technology that I never realized they had was they have robots that can paint the exterior of the ship. You want to change the ship's call sign? Send the robots out, man.
Yeah,
that was kind of cool.
Kind of funny. I like the whole mirror montage, like setting up for that. It was fun, indeed.
I loved that.
I am looking forward to seeing some mirror cosplay at STLV here.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of that.
202 days.
Oh, she's got the day count.
I've got the countdown for STLV.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I don't know. What did you guys think about the Mirror Universe costumes?
Oh, they're amazing.
They're really good. And apparently that they're capable of replicating tons of stuff in a really short span of time on that ship. It's really impressive. Really impressive.
Yeah,
I think the one thing that I learned is that everyone looks really hot in Mirror Universe. like, geez. I don't know. It's just a great looking uniform. So hats off to their costume designer. I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head.
Gersha Phillips, I think.
There we go. Yeah, that was really, really impressive. Like when I saw After Trek and she's kind of talking about some of the thought process behind that, and it was just really cool how she kind of replicated the sash with the holster and the belt and everything. I was very impressed.
I like that they were gender neutral.
Yes.
And there was no tummy showing, or the women's uniforms did not weren't. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Yeah, I never understood why the Mirror Universe required crop tops.
Yeah, I mean, having just watched the Enterprise, those 2 episodes, and I'd never seen them before, it was just so embarrassing. Like, you have Hoshi as, like, the captain's woman, like, in lingerie, lounging around, and T'Pol's in her, I was like, oh, boy.
It's the jumpsuit, except a crop top jumpsuit. One, really?
Yeah, I took a pair of scissors to it, cut the middle out.
So props to them for not making it some wacky armored crop top thing. I totally respected that. I think that Star Trek store or Novos or whomever is going to hit the jackpot with all of this. I'm sure that Novos will probably get the license, as I think they've already got the license for the Discovery regular uniforms. So, but good luck to all of our cosplayers out there who will be making this stuff on their own. If another thing from After Trek, they talked about the meaning for all the different medals. So like one is 50 kills, one is like master of poisons. Like they all have actual meaning, which is really neat. And there's a graphic floating around online with what all of those mean. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's the fantastic attention to detail that has just really characterized Discovery.
Yeah, that is true. There are so many things that I do not pick up on my first watch of these things, and even on my second watch. Sometimes we've been doing this show, and guests on the show or Heather will point out stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't notice that. I watched it twice, and let me go back and watch that again. Oh yeah, I'll be damned.
I typically watch these episodes 2 to 3 times, and I gotta be completely honest, I had a lot of difficulty getting psyched up to watch this a second time.
Yeah. Me too.
And I'm like, fortunately, I was sick. I was like sniffly. So I thought it was just allergies on Sunday night. And then by Monday morning, I woke up just terrible. So I'll use my excuse that I've just been too sick to watch it. But I'm glad that I had a little bit of time. I started watching it again last night and fell asleep. And so I finished it and then rewatched it again today. So technically I've seen it 3 times now.
Well, is that like a good segue to kind of tackle the elephant in the room?
That's where I'm trying to go, and I just don't want to go there.
I know. Well, I have one more thing I can throw out, but it is about Ash Tyler. I don't remember, you guys might remember, but I don't remember. And they said on this episode, in fact, Culber himself said that when Ash came on board, they gave him a battery of tests, including what he called a Manchurian test.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember them saying that at any point.
No, they didn't.
Earlier.
They never mentioned any of the testing that he got. We were all like, what? Like, wouldn't they have done a medical test on him to figure out? Like, here's the thing. At this point, I'm just I don't know that it's disappointment. It's just that I feel like this has all been too predictable. Like whomever it was, and I try to think like, would I have figured this out if I hadn't read it online? If there was no social media, would I have gotten it? And I kind of wish that there was no social media so that maybe I had a chance to figure it out, but I may still have. And at this point, like now that we know what it is, it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think because I've thought that same thing. Like even with the fact that we jumped into the mirror universe, I was like, if Jonathan Frakes hadn't kind of let that slip and it wasn't out there online, would I have figured out that's where we're going? And with that one, I think no. I don't think I would have really gone there. But with Vok, it's like he literally just disappears from the show, and then Ash Tyler is introduced. So it's kind of like I feel like we probably would have put 2 and 2 together, maybe just because we're so used to like going back to him. But yeah.
And I noticed, I rewatched this with a friend who saw it for the first time the past couple of weeks, and I noticed, Shazad Latif's name has been in the credits since the first episode. Like he's been there. So whether he's Vok or Ash, it would have been 2 different actors, blah, blah, whatever. So it's like, now we know, and I will give him credit. Okay. First of all, I still have difficulty with the scenes between Laurel and Ash. And I still take a lot of issue with this whole him being raped, used as a ploy within the plot. I kind of wish that they had just left that part out. It's obvious when he is with Laurel that there is, he's really mad and angry and disgusted. And then he's also very much attracted to her. And that is, we assume, the Voke that's buried in there. I hope. I really don't like it. as a sexual assault survivor, it makes me really, really, really uncomfortable, and I want to curse right now, and I wish it wasn't a part of Discovery. However, I thought that the scene where she triggers him with the prayer and he starts talking like Voke, I thought that was done really well. I thought it was pretty powerful. I don't know about you guys.
No, I agree. And I wish they had left the whole sexual aspect of the relationship just out of this entire process. And there's actually, I think that they've also mishandled his PTSD.
Yes,
because really, it's Starfleet policy to put people with PTSD in quarantine. That's a great idea.
Well, and he's so like, I was part of my spin it again, which sorry, I'm going to spoil it. Comes back to Shazad Latif. I think he's doing an amazing job of acting between these two characters, especially in this episode. I mean, he is tortured. He is not well. He is ill, and we see that. How is it that only Culber saw that? Like every Burnham, she's his partner, I guess we'll say at this point, love interest, whatever. Like they would realize this. Like it's noticeable. It's written to be noticeable. So everyone, like the people that work with him on the ship, would notice these things and would say, "Well, there's some stuff going on here." And instead of enabling him, Burnham really should have been like, "No, you're not handling it. Having a PTSD flashback while you're trying to extract a piece of machinery is bad. And while you may have think that you handled it, you shouldn't be having those flashbacks when you're off doing something like that." The fact that the writers are handling that way just makes me really uncomfortable as well.
Well, and it really reflects badly on Burnham, because that was the thing through that whole scene. Like, I get that they're trying to show that she cares so much about him that she's giving him some slack, but that's like, it's so bad. It's so unprofessional. She's putting not only herself in danger, but she's putting the whole ship in danger.
Yeah.
For really no good reason. Like there's not a great reason not to say, hey, this guy should be taken out. There's other guys on the ships, I'm sure, that could, run security. So yeah, it kind of reflects poorly on her, I think, as, a Starfleet officer, I guess.
Well, and I find it all interesting because, Lorca goes and takes Culber off of Stamets's case and is saying, well, that this is compromised because you're his husband, blah, blah, blah. And then after the whole scene where they're extracting the data core thing, Lorca walks over to Burnham and he's like, well, he's safe now. And can I trust you to do this? So it's like Lorca takes it away from Culber, but,
yeah,
treats Burnham as he has been treating her, as his little pet. And it's just like, oh, you can handle this, right? She's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem.
There's a double standard with the emotional compromise.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think all of that, though, is down to just like whatever, helps Lorca and his agenda. Like from scene to scene, I think that's why it's so different between the two of them. But
absolutely,
I agree. There are definitely ulterior motives in Lorca's handling, and I was remarkable rewatching this episode and watching Wilson Cruz's performance and watching Culber figure everything out, because Culber is definitely on to Lorca. He knows who Tyler is, and just watching the nuances of his performance as he treads a line between being devastated that his husband is in such a state, reassuring Tilly as she tries to help, and then standing up to Lorca. It's really beautiful to watch.
That was a great scene between Culber and Lorca. That was probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode, was that interaction when Lorca's taking him off of Stamets' case. It was just well acted. The tension was just, you could cut it with a knife. And yeah, I loved that he was so willing to stand up to Lorca in that sequence. It was brilliantly done. And that's another reason why I felt so terrible when, the subject we're about to talk about actually happened.
Well, just to delay that for 1 second, I just wanted to mention one thing.
We'll keep putting it off. Keep putting it off.
This whole the whole Vogue thing, which I think like a lot of people are almost just sick of even thinking about because it's been out there for so long. But like now that we know that apparently this is Vogue's body, that they have shortened the legs, they shortened the bones, they've rearranged his insides, they've gotten rid of duplicate organs because Klingons are supposed to have these excess organs, and then they've implanted Ash Tyler's brain over top of Voq. And my brain, I guess I'm just sort of disappointed by that, because I was really hoping Ash Tyler was a human that Voq was just, grafted onto mentally, because just like, how did they do all this and heal him and put him on the ship? And it kind of like strains credibility, which I'm willing to give the show lots of leeway when that comes to that, but that just kind of sticks in my craw, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm right with you. Everyone knows I'm the one that's like, it's science fiction, right? But there's only so much that my mind can deal with. I don't know. There's only just so much I can take. So yeah, it's kind of.
No, I'm with you. Heather. Remember back on the episode where they spring Ash Tyler from the prison ship and he comes back to Discovery, and we were talking about the whole Ash is Voq thing, and I'm like, no, it's too convenient. I mean, how would they have ever known in a million years that somehow Lorca would wind up on that prison ship? And I mean, how it's just so convenient. And they're like, no, it's totally believable. It's like, now that the it's actually sprung, I even feel like he's even more ridiculous. The whole setup feels just too convenient.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the physical modifications are a bit far-fetched. To me, it sets up an exploration of what it means to be a person, since this Ash Tyler is this created personality that has been overlaid on top of Voq, and clearly it's become dominant enough that he's resisting L'Rell's trigger phrase. So I think it's going to become a discussion of, does Ash Tyler have a right to be a person? Is he a person? What makes him a person? What makes Voq a person?
I like that.
Yeah.
You go, girl.
I like that too,
point, yeah.
And I think we've talked about it a couple times before about how potentially, Ash Tyler, as Voq could be the bridge between humanity and the Klingons, and the source of creating a peace between the two, as he, because he realizes that humans aren't the horrible people and creatures that Klingons thought they were. But after what he did in this episode, I don't even care. I'm like, you know what? I have no sympathy for this guy anymore. I don't even want to entertain that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just
yeah,
me.
that is pretty hard to come back from.
Like he could have. I mean, maybe if he killed maybe just some kind of random one-off crew member that we weren't already attached to and we weren't invested in, maybe then okay. But
yeah, I mean, there's some maybe slippage there. It's kind of like, I mean, you could say, okay, who was in control then? Was it Ash or was it Voq? And are they separate people? I mean, it gets messy, but yeah, it's difficult.
It's messy, and I think that Ash is losing it, and I think they even like have the Klingon voice going on when that happens. So I think the motivation is certainly Voq's motivation there, but regardless, man, this it's a really difficult subject to talk about. It's a very loaded subject, and I really don't want to do it. So before I say anything, I want to point out two different articles that were written that I think deserve a read from everyone. The first was written by my dear Trek bestie Claire Little over on Trekcore, and it's her review of the episode, and she does talk a little bit about this scene in there. And our friend Andy over at Women at Warp, in the Women at Warp blog, wrote her review and then a separate article, A Painful Discovery, about what has happened, because, for many people, this is just a character. And for a lot of people, okay, yes, it's a gay character. And the writers, the actors, 3 of whom are gay themselves, have come out and said, this is not the last that we've seen of Culber, which is kind of, okay. So it's all very placating, right? For the queer community, seeing our first openly gay couple, which they're like one of the most amazing couples on Star Trek for many reasons. You know, it's a healthy partnership that they have. They're a couple that I would want to be someday. Like what they have is just really amazing and wonderful. To have one of those characters killed off, one of those characters who is also a minority character, it hurt really badly. And what was extremely upsetting to me was having so many people turn around and say, but he's not really dead, or he's going to come back. I don't care. I don't care. Read these articles because they say everything much, much better than I can. It talks about the bury your gays trope, which has been discussed, debated all over the internet the past few days. The reality is that that's exactly what they did. You can color it whatever way you want, but they killed off this gay character. And they did so knowing the effect that it would have, knowing that they would have to come back and defend that and say, but, and that's all really, really difficult. And I totally understand, like, they try to, oh, that's not our intent, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it happened. What matters is that it hurt a lot of people. And it's even more hurtful to come around and say, but, and Claire put it a really good way. It's like when Spock died. It wasn't like we're just supposed to get over that and say, well, he's going to come back. Don't worry about it. You're basically saying that, our feelings about the death of Spock or our feelings about the death of Culber are invalid and that they don't matter because the character is going to come back. And that is BS. That's a slap in the face. And so it really bothered me that people were doing that online to the point that, I tweeted, don't tell others how to feel about this. Like, we have the right to be upset about it. And, I'm well aware that Aaron Harberts and Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp are all amazing, wonderful gay men in the community. And I don't, they knew what this would do. And I think that they were prepared to try to come back. And I know that they believe in what they're doing and they want us to wait and see. I think that they just didn't anticipate the reality of how hard this would be for the LGBT community specifically. I watched this happen. I've been watching it by myself now. This is the first episode I watched by myself. And I gasped and I just sat there with my mouth open. And you go through a range of emotions. And anger is a big one. But at the end of the day, I came out of this really sad because I'm just really sad that the writers did this and knew what they were doing. And okay, I'm going to stick around for the ride and see what happens. But this was still really, really difficult. And I'm tired of being told this stuff like isn't going to happen and then having it happen. I mentioned before the fact that we've had 2 women of color characters killed. Like, that stuff matters. And the writers, think Aaron Harbert said something about, like, you don't know us. Like, you don't know the writers. If you think that this is what we're doing, you don't know us. And the reality is we don't know you. Shout out here to my friend Jocelyn, who kind of mentioned this. She's like, we've had 10 episodes. That's not a lot of Star Trek. And in those 10 episodes, you have killed 2 lead women of color and, 1 white guy and a bunch. Like, when it comes to like the main characters, it's those characters that are getting killed. And you may not get that. Like, I'm a white woman. It may not register, but for people who are minorities, seeing those characters like that hurts. And I'm just really tired of seeing this kind of stuff in Discovery. Like, I know I know who the writers are, and I have faith that they can do better. And I don't know like what the ultimate motivation is. And I'm going to stick around and see, but I just don't want any more of this to happen. Okay, I'm done. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys.
Well, no, I mean, I think, it's interesting. I feel like I have a lot of different thoughts that swirl in my head still, even all these like many days afterwards, because I mean, as a gay man myself, I mean, I had a very similar reaction when that happened. Like when the moment happened, I'm like the person who does not really vocalize while I'm watching a show at all. And I didn't scream at the TV, but I was just like, I literally just like kind of softly like, no, you're not doing this. And pretty much the entire rest of the episode, which I was, enjoying so much, like I was sort of weirdly numb because I was like, I can't believe they're actually doing this. But having said that, my perspective on this is, I'm torn because the baggage of the bury your gay trope, is there. I think the baggage of, I'm a white guy, but I mean, the baggage of like them killing off people of color consistently is there for me and is a problem. But I do kind of have this other side of it too. Just my own personal take is that, as a writer myself, it's like I don't think that good drama always makes you feel comfortable or always makes you feel good. Like, sometimes it makes you uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes you sad or it makes you angry. And that's part of what makes it memorable. It's part of what gives it those extra shades. I think the problem here is, in serialized storytelling, you don't get the ending right away, right? So you are left with that emotion, and like you were saying, Heather, the intention of the writers is to give you that emotion. So it was really weird for me to see them coming out on After Trek, and really, I think in kind of an unprecedented way. Like I can't think of any other show ever that has literally gone out of their way to say, "Don't worry, guys, it's okay. They're not really dead." You know what I mean? Like whether it's Walking Dead, like the Talking Dead or whatever. If you get those questions, I mean, compare this to what happened with Cornwell. It's all a lot like, well, we'll see. She might be dead. She might not.
Yeah.
But this is like they're like, look, guys, he's back. He's going. So it's clear to me that, I mean, obviously, a lot of this work happens ahead of time, right? And I do believe. I think Aaron Harpitz was the one who's saying, they were kind of taken by surprise about how quickly fandom latched on to this relationship. And you only have to look at Tumblr or any kind of online space to see that people love these characters and love this couple. If they're, Discovery fans, you love that couple. So I do think they were surprised by how, quickly people latched onto it. And I think that worried them. So it's at the same time, while I understand like the function of having these hard things in drama, it almost made it seem, I don't know, kind of hollow that they walked it back so quickly. It's like I would rather have them had the courage of their convictions and stuck with the story than like trying to backpedal. It just is. It creates a lot of like mixed messages in my mind.
Yeah, I want to follow up with just a point. And Andy makes this point in her article at the Women at Work blog, and I made this point before with the sexual assault scene with Tyler and Laurel. So they're showing these things not from the appropriate point of view. The sexual assault was from Laurel's perspective. So it didn't really come across as what assault is to me, to someone who's been assaulted. In the same way, like this scene, it was very much driven by Vogue Tyler driving the discussion, snapping the neck, moving on. And so it was just like, oh, neck snaps. There was no like meaning in that death. It was just kind of like there. And I know from what the writers have said, well, it's going to be really meaningful. But again, and yes, it's a fault of the serialized storytelling, like we're not there yet. So what you presented to us was just a really rough and difficult scene, and that's all we got. He's dead. And then we see in the preview for the next episode, Stamets is cradling Culber's dead body, etc. But I just feel like for me, and I, at least with this death, like we're supposedly going to see more, and will that it'll add meaning to the death and the character relationship and everything else, versus I wish they just left out this whole the sex scene, because it was a sex scene, so I find a similar parallel there between those two things.
Yeah. So I was going to actually say something similar along the lines of something that you just mentioned, that Andy said. I was going to elaborate a little bit on this, that aside from what we've already talked about, one of the things that stood out to me the most about and upset me a lot about Culber's death was the fact that it felt, I don't want to say needless, but it felt meaningless. And this is a trend that has been bugging me in a lot of television shows these days. I mean, Walking Dead specifically, where I'm really sick of these writers and shows getting us emotionally invested in these characters. And I think for me, I was probably the most emotionally invested in Culber and Stamets because they seemed the most real to me out of all the characters on the show. They were relatable. And I feel like there's this trend where they build up these characters and give us these backstories and get us emotionally invested, and then rip the rug out from under us for seemingly no reason. Bringing up Spock's death, at least Spock's death in The Wrath of Khan had a huge meaning. I mean, his sacrifice was monumental, and you understood that, and it helped you to process what you saw. And no matter how, and I love that character. I've loved that character all my entire life, and I could accept that death and say, you know what, there was some meaning there. But to just offhand it, and even if sure, maybe they'll bring him back, or his death will have a meaning to some other scene that's coming up later. But the fact that they treated it so offhandedly, like, oh, crack, bye, I'm done, and he walks away, and it felt like there should have been more purpose and more, especially after having us so involved and emotionally invested in the character himself. And he's been more a part of each episode as the series has gone on. We barely saw him at the beginning, but he's been more and more a part of the ship. And I hate to see, they give these characters a purpose on the show and a place on a show, and then just rip it away with no meaning whatsoever. But I don't know, off my soapbox there. But that was
don't worry, Jeff. The meaning will come later.
Of course it will.
And
I don't know. I don't know if it'll help me at this point, but
yeah.
I think Heather did a great job of covering why it was problematic. I could see how the writers got where they did. They were clearly setting up Culber as being too inquisitive, too on to people. And it was almost I had the thought today that if Ash Tyler had not killed him, Lorca would eventually have sidelined him, taken him out of the equation in some way. But the fact remains, when you are writing these episodes, you make choices. And they could have made different choices. And maybe that's something they should have thought about doing. Between this, the sexual assault, the PTSD, and the bury your gays, they don't seem to have a great awareness of the issues that they're touching on. And if we're calling
so
out,
hard. Sorry, it's just frustrating because, like, I feel like they should. I feel like I mean, and I don't know these writers. I feel like they've done such a good job in other places, and I mean, it's a diverse group of people writing. I feel like they should know better, and part of me is just like, where is the hand of Hollywood that's just hovering over, forcing all this stuff, because everybody's like, well, but Aaron Harberts is gay and Anthony Rapp is gay, Wilson Cruz is gay. And I'm like, yes. And that it's also their job. Like, this is their job. And so they are going to say what they need to say. And I don't doubt that they also believe in what's happening. Okay. But at the same time, like, are they going to quit their job?
No, it's a great job. They're working on Star Trek.
It's unless it's something, and I mean, there's enough there for them with wherever the story goes that no one was disgusted enough to walk out and to quit. But it's like at the same time, like, there is an influence that is beyond the actors, beyond the writers, of a presentation that they have to give to to us. So I think that influences some of the things that they say, and the fact that they had to turn around immediately and start apologizing and trying to reassure everyone and defend themselves very much says that they know that they did something wrong. So sorry, Annie. It's just really frustrating because I love the writers and I think they're doing such a great job, but I don't understand why things like this keep like going under the bus.
No, I agree. And if we're calling out shows that keep doing stuff like this, Supernatural, stop killing women.
Mm-hmm. And Walking Dead,
Please.
stop killing a disproportionate amount of minority characters.
Yeah.
They've been taking a lot of heat for that for years, and it amazes me that other shows haven't gone to school on that because, you know, that they keep getting called out for it constantly, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things that's interesting about that is, like, I mean, there is this school of thought which I do like theoretically I subscribe to this, where it's like, you know, again, you know, as a gay man, you know, I don't want gay characters in this. Again, this is going to sound kind of like a straw man, but I don't need gay characters to be perfect. I don't want to avoid gay characters as villains. I don't even mind you killing off gay characters when it makes sense, but so it's like I don't want to limit anyone's creative freedom. But yeah, the idea of not realizing the context of the moment and understanding that the history of how these characters are treated matters to, you know, lots of people, like, you know, queer people, LGBT people, and just people, humans, you know, I mean, who are paying attention and care about those things. So it's like, I would love to be able to, would love, you know, at some point where in the future where you can basically set these characters up of any kind and do what you need to do with them dramatically without worrying or thinking about there's kind of like meta stuff going on around you, but we're not to that point.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
No, and I think that's like, you know, to Heather, to your point, is like, you know, this stuff where they're kind of mollifying people. And again, I mean, like you, I think the world of these writers, I love the world they've created. I love the characters they've created. But it doesn't mean I have to love every decision they make. And I think it means that, you know, people's emotional responses have to be respected. Like I'm totally on board waiting to see how this works out. Like I'm a little nervous now because, I mean, it's similar to like the sexual assault scene. Like I was fully on board, and I think I even, you know, tweeted a little bit about this, about, you know, I'm willing to wait and see how it works out. You know, okay, maybe they're going somewhere with this. But it kind of feels like with this episode, we were told like they're not going anywhere. It literally was just another kind of form of, you know, deception to make you think that this is what was going on. And that really sits badly with me. So now I'm like a little worried about this. I was like, I want to believe that you're going somewhere good with this and that it'll make sense and I'll feel better about it. But my faith is definitely shaken.
Yeah. It just really, I mean, it's going to take the entire series for me to be able to come back and like have an informed opinion about how all of this was done. But yeah, it's just really tough because, like I said, I thought this was a phenomenal episode, and I loved so much about it. But I was so uncomfortable with Laurel and Ash Tyler, with their interaction. And then I was just devastated when this happened. And, you know, the response among the gay community has been mixed itself. I mean, there are plenty of gay people out there who were okay with it. It didn't really bother them and don't say anything bad about Aaron Harberts and Wilson Cruz and Anthony Rapp. And it's like at the end of the day, everyone's going to have a mixed reaction. But I think that, you know, let's just stop the gatekeeping. Like people can be okay with it and people can be hurt by it. And we're allowed to be hurt by it. And I'm not insinuating anything about the actors or about the writers or producers who are gay, who were okay with it. Like they are going to continue to be, you know, pillars of the LGBT community. It's not an attack on them. It's just, I'm just saying that what I saw was very awful.
It was
I mean,
traumatizing.
It was, and this is just so frustrating because like I have now been like double traumatized by my favorite show.
I know.
And so it's like, I'm like on the verge of cursing, which we cannot do because I love this show. And like I said, I got to introduce this show to someone who hadn't seen it, who turned around and was like, this is how you do Star Trek. Like, this is, you know, how you recreate something, paying homage to what was there. And I was just so happy that, yay, like I got someone into it. And then it's like, oh man. I guess we'll see what happens. I can't give up, guys. I do a podcast about the show, so and I really do love the show. I do. So I think we've kind of talked about all there is to talk about with this, and probably can go ahead and move into Spin It Again. What do you think, Jeff? Or do you have more?
Yeah, we can definitely move into Spin It Again. I mean, I did have one more thing. I guess this was actually part of my Spin It Again that kind of is tangential part of this topic. Not necessarily about what we were just talking about, but one thing that I was wondering about, because I forget the exact line that Laurel used, but I mean, obviously something has gone wrong with the programming of Ash Tyler's brain, and my mind was trying to figure out what could have caused that to happen, and I was wondering if you guys thought that maybe his attachment to some of the humans that he's been interacting with, especially Burnham, may have caused that malfunction in his programming that would make the Ash Tyler personality resist and not want to give the body over to Voq because he has these feelings. Maybe the Klingons didn't plan for that type of a reaction or a type of the feelings that he would develop. I was just kind of spitballing as to what could have possibly broken it. I mean, it could be something as simple as a botched surgery, right? But I wanted to find something deeper in it, despite his horrible actions. What did you guys think about that?
I think that would align perfectly with the fact that he's Burnham's first love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a nice thought. I think it would work out well because I mean, I took from that last scene with them that he's basically saying "I love you" and she's basically saying it back. And then they maybe possibly do the thing.
Yes, but they're saying "I love you" in a really unhealthy way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's not a good relationship to emulate.
It's just he's not a healthy person, and I mean the whole, it's this relationship is here for the plot. Like they're, I don't know, it's tough. I like them together. I think they're cute, but because of the length of the show and the lack of development that we get, I mean, we haven't really seen the true development of the relationship. It's, they like each other. Oh, they kiss on the dance floor. They kiss in a tent on Pavo, and now they're in love. So you don't really get that backstory, but yeah, I think it would line up. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think there's a couple things at play there that my mind kind of goes to. I mean, one thing, when you're talking about, how did he break this training, or why is the training not working, like to bring him back? And I do wonder if Ash is an actual person, like they've got these engrams or whatever they're calling them from a real person, because we know there was a Starfleet officer who has a history, whose name was Ash Tyler. So it makes sense to me that maybe that is a real human. Because just logically that makes sense, because trying to make a brand new human brain from nothing, from scratch, would be difficult. But it does also make me wonder, like, okay, well, what was the nature of his conditioning? Like, was he assigned to get close to Burnham? Like, is this love even a real thing? Like, or is it something that was part of the whole process of infiltration? I don't know. And then I think that becomes messy. Like if he does break the training permanently and decides to live as Ash, then there'll be a lot of questions. So, I mean, I think a lot of that is actually pretty fertile ground. As annoying as it could be to get there, I kind of think of it in a similar way to the revelation that we're in the mirror universe, or the revelation that Voq is Tyler. I mean, where you go with it is probably more important than the surprise or the quote unquote twist itself. But yeah, I don't know.
My paper thin argument against Ash Tyler being a real person is that we don't know who he is in the mirror universe. They completely overlooked figuring out who he is in the mirror universe. So I don't think he has a counterpart because I don't think he's a real person.
No,
I think
and there is Vok is on the ship. He's on the rebel ship.
Mhm.
Like you can kind of tell in the trailer thing that he's in the background there. At least I'm pretty sure that's him.
Yeah, but I agree with I think Jeff is on the right line. I think the Ash Tyler personality has developed these relationships, and our relationships are a huge part of what make us who we are and what make us human. And that is that it's developed to a point where his personality is strong enough to want to have a mind of its own.
Yeah, and that would play into the whole, what makes us human. Storyline, etc.
I mean, I like that storyline better. I hope that's the direction they go in. So.
Yeah, good one, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. All right, well, I guess we can launch into Spin It Again, and so this is the time of the show where we talk about the moments that stood out to us the most in this episode. So, Annie, why don't you kick it off?
I'm going to briefly mention Ensign Connor again, just because I have such a love for Sam Bartholomeos. We have a great picture of Eric and I with Kenneth Mitchell and Mary Schifo at STLV because a member of their entourage said, "You guys need a picture with the Klingon tattoo." And Sam actually grabbed my phone and took that picture for us.
Aww.
So, but beyond that, I love watching Lorca work. Captain Malfoy, I want to know what he is up to. Just the little things like making sure nobody looks at the jump logs. And
yes, and sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to point that out that Burnham specifically said we need to go back and look, and he said nope. He totally put her in a different direction. So thank you for mentioning that. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. No, so I'm excited to see what Lorca is up to. I'm a little concerned that we did not follow the plan. We were supposed to beam onto the ship, get the information, and beam off, and yet we are warping off into space. But mostly, I'm so excited that we're going to get Andorians.
Yes.
Yes, overdue.
Yes, I love me some Andorians.
Yes, they're very underutilized. No Gorn, though, unfortunately. It doesn't say. Whose side would they be on in the Mirror Universe? Who knows?
I'm okay. We've already seen a Gorn in the Mirror Universe. There was a Gorn in the Enterprise episode, and it was horrible.
No, he had a tail. That was not a Gorn.
They said he was a Gorn.
I know they did, but he's not a Gorn. He has a tail. No, he's not a raptor. Gorn are not raptors. Sorry. Anything else that stood out to you, Annie?
And of course, shout out to Captain Tilly. Captain Tilly is fantastic. I love watching this cast work. They're all phenomenal actors, and their performances are just so nuanced and so real that it's a pleasure to watch them work.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. How about you, John?
Well, first of all, Lorca and that leather duster was awesome. Like, he looked so great. That was awesome.
Yeah.
He rocked that. I mean, pretty much every scene with Tilly. I love Tilly. I kind of loved her from the beginning. And the first moment when she is trying to be the captain just by voice only, and she kind of like stammers through that opening line. Yeah, like what the heck? What are you back on? It was like perfect comedic timing. I love that. But actually, the moment that I kind of wanted to come back to the most, and it's kind of been talked about a little bit already, but was really that fight scene between Connor and Burnham. And the fight scene itself was awesome. It was staged well. I really liked how they kind of went over it in After Trek. But to me, the thing that really made that kind of special was Burnham's reactions and like the kind of emotions that she's going through.
Yeah.
And the way that Sonequa Martin Green played that, like, it was just so perfect. And in a weird way, it kind of justified the scene I think it was in the second episode where Connor's blown out into space, I mean, because that worked in the episode. I mean, it was a shocking moment and it kind of raised the stakes and everything. But to me, this kind of it kind of went back and gave it more shading and more emotional weight because, she has to kill this person that she served with for, years and years after basically feeling bad or feeling responsible for his death the first time. and it's wordless. There's no dialogue. It's just Sonequa Martin Green's face, doing all the heavy lifting. And I thought that was really amazing. And then she has to turn around and be the merciless Terran captain, Burnham like the next second later. So that was great.
I totally agree.
Yeah, that stood out to me as well. And it's important to have that there because so many people think, oh, Burnham the mutineer, or she stepped into the role of the mirror captain too easily, blah blah blah. No, like she's still very human and she's not a murderer. She feels these feelings, and the expression on her face when that happened was just award winning.
And I think it's, if you zoom out from that a little bit, I kind of took away from this episode, it's a great development opportunity for her character, because not only does she have to kill someone that she was close with and worked with for years, now she's in a position where she's been carrying potentially the guilt of having had a hand in the deaths of everybody on the Shenzhou. Now they're all alive in the mirror universe, but in a different way than she knew them. So now she's faced with the fact that, well, these people are still alive and I'm going to have to see a lot of these people when I go over there. This is a really heavy thing for her to have to go through, and then to have to kill one of them after they're going through that. It's just, it had to be incredibly emotionally taxing, even for her with the Vulcan training. You could see it, like you guys said, in her face. She was coming unraveled before she had to walk onto that bridge. So I can't even imagine the weight of, feeling like you're responsible for the deaths of all of those people, only to come into contact with all of them again.
I feel like there's a temptation scenario there. Even after the brutality of killing Ensign Connor, it's, as Tilly said, the twisted version of everything I've ever aspired to be. All of a sudden, Burden is captain of the Shenzhou, and she has her crew back. Maybe she can get over what the Terran Empire demands of her. It's definitely some better prospects than going back to jail.
Well, one thing that moment actually kind of made me think of, which kind of touched on too, was the idea that, and I don't know if we're ever going to get back to this, but Burnham, as well as Starfleet, think she is the reason why the Shenzhou was destroyed, why the war was started, and I suppose that's because she killed the torchbearer, right? And that's why she's thinking that this set off this chain of events. But the reality is that Takuma had planned this all along. Like, they were drawn into a trap for that express purpose. So it makes me wonder if we're ever going to get back to that plot point where it's somehow revealed that, like, no, Burnham, your actions were actually, no matter what you did, you wouldn't have, stopped this because the Klingons were planning it no matter what, or if that's just something they're going to move on from. But it was just something that kind of, I hadn't even thought about really until that moment in the turbo lift kind of, jogged my memory of that we know better. We kind of have the bigger sense of it, but the characters don't.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to wrap up in a short amount of time.
Like those black badges.
Yes.
That's still a big question mark. Yeah.
Who knows? I already kind of, even though we hate him now, Shazad Latif is doing a really great job of unraveling. So props to him as an actor. Captain Tilly helped make this episode for me, and I just absolutely love the confidence that she had, like the minute she, stepped in as captain in the mirror uniform. It's an amazing and inspiring thing to see, because I've certainly been in her shoes, being forced into a position where I don't quite have that confidence, and seeing someone just step into that role so perfectly was really, really great. I love her. I love her so much. Props to Jonathan Frakes. Glad to have him back. Glad to have him on this episode. I'm curious to see what it would have been without him. So I mean, overall, there was a lot about this that I really really loved. A lot that I didn't. And that's just kind of where I think I'm going to stand on this episode. It's really tough because I want to say it's my favorite, and yet I don't feel that I can because of the things that I have issues with. But I'm really excited to see what happens next week. And I've heard from everyone on After Trek that it doesn't stop. Like, the pace is picked up and it's going to be like this. Hopefully we don't have any more terrible deaths like we did. Knock on wood. And that was the other thing. Like, I kept saying, like, I knew I didn't think they were going to kill off Stamets, but I'm like, it's going to be Culber. And indeed it was. And I was just like, why should we have to worry about it? And why did it have to happen anyway? I'm curious to see how they bring him back. Aaron Harbert's mentioned reading the actual mycologist Paul Stamets' book, and that would give you great insight in how it may happen. And I'm certainly not going to go read that book. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. But overall, I like the change up. I thought it was really fun. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. And we'll see.
Well, I don't know where to go with this, but it kind of made me wish for the old days of a simpler time on Star Trek where they just hit you in the back of the head with the butt of a phaser, knock you out instead of killing you. I mean, we're so obsessed with death and killing people on TV shows now. It's just getting old for me. It's just so unnecessary. Can't we just kind of take a step back and have a little more kinder, gentler approach to these things?
Well, and I was going to say, I think too, to your point though, I mean, it's interesting. I think especially like with them kind of saying, hey, it's sci-fi, guys. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that's actually kind of the point against killing people is because we are so, I'm a comic book fan too. And it's like, I am basically like, this death actually did mean a lot to me, but only because it was well written and they so well acted and I cared about the characters. But more often than not, like, I mean, I stopped watching The Walking Dead because I realized that the main thrust of that show is just to kill off the people you like. And I was like, I really have no interest in watching this. I don't, my thing was always, Carol or Daryl, I'm out. But then I realized, actually, I'm out anyway because you just like pretty much killed my interest in the show. And there's something to be said, for death as a dramatic device that can take you to different places, blah, blah, blah. But it's done so much that I think a lot of us just become numb to it and it just sort of becomes pointless. So
it's done a lot in Star Trek too. Well, okay, Tasha Yar. I mean,
Jadzia Dax.
Jadzia, Zial. Like there's tons of deaths in Star Trek that have meaning, but there are a lot of deaths in Star Trek that don't, and they were characters that really didn't need to die or just died because of a plot device. And that's the other thing is like, this is right now a death that's just for shock value. And it's the same thing with the sexual assault scene is that was just done for sex. That didn't need to be there. It was there for, let's put some nudity in our Star Trek. I don't know. That's just my opinion, guys. It's not a fact, but that's how it comes across.
Totally valid.
I did really appreciate them not including the sexual assault clips in his flashbacks in this episode. I appreciated that decision so much.
Yeah, if that had happened in this episode, I don't. Yeah, I may not have been able to do this podcast. I seriously, like, it's hard enough to talk about Culber. If I have to see any more of that, I will not be happy.
Well, one thing I hope that the writers gain from this first season is, I think, like, I'm sympathetic to the fact that, this is a new venture. It's Star Trek on a streaming platform. It's, for mature audiences, they're trying this new thing. And so maybe they felt pressured to kind of use some of these, bags of tricks that, quote unquote prestige television is known for, which is like killing off characters and shock value and sexual content, and it's like they don't need it. The show is strong despite those things, despite themselves. It's like they don't need it. They should be confident enough that they have such good writing. I think those tricks just aren't necessary. And it's not that as a Star Trek fan, because I think that's something that you kind of feel like if people start complaining about that stuff, it's not that I'm a prude or that I'm not okay with sex or violence, but you've got to be careful. You've got to be very conscientious about how you use it. And if you can't do that, or, just don't do it. You don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. I just don't think Star Trek needs that stuff necessarily. Not in this format, anyway. It just seemed a little too over the top to me. And I don't think we mentioned this at all in any of our conversations. And I'm not going to go back to the death of Culber, but I think one of the things that made it even more impactful for me was it followed what I thought was a really meaningful and beautiful short scene where, we have no idea if Stamets is going to be able to come back from where he is. We don't know how they're going to be able to cure him, but the fact that he came back for just a split second when Culber leaned in and gave him a kiss and was, talking to him, he came back for just that split second. And like, he gave that glimmer of hope that, there's something here that can bring him back. And then to rip Culber away from us like that I thought there was a great moment there, and I wish they would have capitalized a little bit more on that. But, I guess maybe we could keep watching, and down the road maybe they will. But, I guess that was another one of my spin it agains, by the way, that I didn't get a chance to bring up, was that one little moment.
Well, it's all valid stuff, and it's our feelings. Everyone's feelings are valid. And that just has to be reiterated. And I really don't like what I see online with people trying to just invalidate other people's feelings. Like, you have the right to feel however you're going to feel. And just let people react the way they're going to react. You don't have to agree with it, but don't invalidate someone else's feelings.
I agree. And the threat ganglia made an appearance.
Yes, I loved that.
We hadn't seen them in a while. It was nice to see them pop back up.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh, really, though? I don't know. I kind of rolled my eyes at that part a little bit. So I was like, oh, I think the Lorcas Scotty accent was great.
Yes.
The Defiant tie-in was really nice, although I hear there's a lot of chatter about the way the Defiant looks.
Which kind of cracks me up because it's like a schematic on a screen. I was like,
yeah.
Again, I'm not. There's people who concern themselves much more with the way ships look than I do, I suppose. But
yeah, that's
I was
not
like,
me.
I was like, the general outline looks about the same. I think it's okay, and it's also been in that. It's also, well, I guess maybe I'm confused, but no, yeah, it's been in this universe. I'm assuming for 90 or almost 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's like they may have changed it up some. I don't know what they're doing with it, but yeah.
Yeah. We've had enough changes with this new discovery that it just doesn't faze me. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I get if people are upset about it, whatever, that's fine. But
we don't want to invalidate their feelings. They're definitely
exactly. They have the right to be upset. So totally. But yeah, there was a lot of really fun stuff in this episode that made it great. And yeah. I'm trying to close on a high note so that we're not just like.
Well, there's more positives. I've got more positives.
Okay.
I can throw some out there. I love the fact that we now have a third canonical way to get to the mirror universe. This is great. Now we have 3 ways that we can get there, all of which are repeatable. Transporting yourself in the middle of an ion storm. That'll get you there, right? We've got getting caught in the Tholian web. That'll get you there. And now aborting mid-spore jump will get you there. So if you want a vacation in the mirror universe, people, you got 3 choices.
Oh, no, we have a 4th one. Didn't Deep Space Nine use some kind of device with the transporter? It was some kind of device they used with the transporter to get back and forth. I don't remember the specifics.
Interesting. We'll have to look that one up. I think you're right. So maybe there's 4. Maybe there's 4 repeatable ones. That they will lump them in with all the repeatable time travel devices that they have in Trek that they never intentionally seem to use when they need to. But I have said this many times on DiscoTrek. I'm a sucker for beautiful visuals, and this episode did not disappoint with some great exterior shots of the ship flying around in that wreckage. Was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous stuff.
I love the way that they light the ship in the show, like, like almost all the time. Like, it's never just its color, like it's like blues, and it's just so much. It's gorgeous. Like, I literally just, you could take a screenshot of any of them and hang them up on your wall, you know. So especially like, it was interesting going back and watching the Enterprise episode, which I don't want to sound like I'm an Enterprise hater, because I do like that show. I just hadn't seen the last couple seasons, but it is like amazing to me to see the CGI technology in that versus this. Like, it's just like, it's like PlayStation 2 cutscene versus, you know, reality. And it's really incredible. Like, it's, you know, it's worth all the time. Like, I'm sad that it's going to take so long for the show to come back, but if that's the kind of visuals I'm getting, you know, that's fine. I'll wait for season 2.
Yeah, and that's the one thing where I'm like, okay, yay, it's on CBS All Access or whatever, because being behind that paywall helps pay for it looking so good. I'm just frustrated because I tried to watch it on the PS4. I watched it live and it had some hiccuping. I tried to watch it, I think, Monday night, and it just kept stuttering, so I stopped. I tried to watch it on my laptop, and it's just like, at this point in time, I should be able to watch it seamlessly. Like, I should be able to watch it seamlessly the night that it airs, like I can on Netflix with everything else I watch. So, it's just...
I thought we were ending on a positive note, Heather.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I guess I do have a question for you guys. Is that I just didn't know, like, from your guys' point of view, do you think that there's a possibility that Discovery will never get back? Do you think, because I know I've seen like a couple people brought up this kind of idea of like, maybe this will be like the Star Trek equivalent of Sliders, and they'll just keep on going to different universes and times and things. But I just didn't know if you guys had thought about that at all. If you think it's like, I think it's difficult to take a huge ship to new universes all the time. So the practicality of that might not work, but it is kind of an interesting notion.
It is. Yeah, that would give them a totally new direction for next season.
Yeah, it's like every half season you go somewhere new.
I hadn't thought that far ahead. I kind of feel like by the end of this season they'll be back in the Prime timeline. But I don't know. And I mean, that's the good part, is that the show definitely keeps me guessing, aside from Ash's Vogue. Like, it still continues to surprise me. So, in good ways and bad ways that I don't like. But anyway, positive.
Hey, Lorca's Tribble is alive. That's a positive.
Yes, we still haven't seen the Tribble and Ash in the same room together, but now we know.
I still think that should have been the giveaway. I still think they should have detected the Klingon that way. That would have been beautiful. It would have been a nice throwback to Trouble with Tribbles. But
well, this kind of make you wonder why they didn't like reorganize that Klingon's insides and shave down his bones. Just to make it much more, you know.
Like they still don't know. I mean, we're the ones that know, but they don't know.
That's
so
true.
It's still, I mean, you know, and then Saru's threat ganglia, but
Stamets knows.
But yeah,
Stamets does know.
That he's it. Like everyone else doesn't know, so we still have the potential for a Tribble reveal. I doubt that's how it's going to happen, but who knows? Who knows? And you know, even the next episode, they have. Well, I guess that Tyler and Burnham do it because they're like naked together, talking.
And boy, is she going to be sorry when she finds out about Culber.
Oh God, I don't know. I don't know. It feels like I kind of know the direction they're heading, but at the same time, I don't. So, despite what predictability is there, there's still an awful lot that's going to surprise us.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks.
I am hoping for Emperor Giorgio.
That would be nice.
Who is not okay, this is actually something concerning I've seen online, is people saying, oh, if she's Emperor Shoujo, she must be related to Hoshi Sato. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
no,
gosh.
Come on.
no.
Don't
Not
God,
all
come on.
go
Asians are
there.
related.
Come
No.
on.
Yeah, I saw that too and just wanted to groan so loud.
But even besides that problem of it, what we see of the Terran Empire in the other Mirror Universe episodes, I don't think it's stable enough for Hoshi Sato's rule to have lasted long enough to name her successor.
No, probably not.
The only other person I think that I wouldn't mind seeing is the Emperor or the Empress or however you want it is Cornwell. I think that would be kind of cool too.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how many episodes until the Emperor is revealed.
Who knows? We don't have that many left, so it's got to be soon.
They're
Oh.
the faceless Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't do a faceless Emperor unless it's somebody you care about.
Yeah.
Well, we know that it's not Culber because they talked about that on After Trek. So After Trek should be paying me for all the 3 mentions of their
Yeah,
show.
really. Or at least give you a free CBS All Access membership. Come on.
Seriously. Come
But when it
on.
works.
Jeez.
Come on, guys. Anyway.
All right, guys. Well, and does anybody else have anything they want to say for their moments that stood out to them before we wrap the show up?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Annie, anything from you?
No, I think we've covered this episode pretty thoroughly.
I would agree. John, anything from you?
No, I mean, what a great episode to end up on the show. No, I mean,
Are we glad that they cut them up the way they did and that they left it, instead of leaving it on into we left it on Into the Forest I Go. So the one before that is where they were going to leave it.
Yeah,
the
Saru
one. Civis Pacem Parabellum.
Yeah. No.
I can speak Latin now, guys.
Oh, I actually wanted to compliment you on your Latin pronunciation when you did that podcast episode, especially since you chose classical pronunciation rather than ecclesiastical. That was the right choice.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank Wikipedia. No, wherever I found it, some website I put in for the correct pronunciation, my behind the scenes magic there. But yeah, aren't we glad that they did this the way that they did? Because this was a great episode to come back to. I mean, across the board, the reception seems to be extremely positive. People really loved the episode, but they really hated what happened to Culber. Whether or not it was just the death, senseless death of a favorite character or bury your gay trope or whatever. That was certainly a faux pas. But overall, people seem to like it, and everyone's just glad to have Star Trek back on television.
Yeah, and I'm super pumped that we're going to spend some time here. Like, I think I'm really excited about where the story could go. Wherever it's going to go in the Mirror Universe. So,
especially now, who knows what they could have done? They could have messed it up, I guess. But I think they did a great job, and like I said, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat up until what happened, and then I was just frozen in my seat. I definitely want to watch the next one.
I think we all do. So. All right. Well, on our way out, why don't we go around the table here and tell everybody out there where they can find us if they want to talk Trek. Annie, where can people locate you online?
I'm one of the admins on Facebook of the USS Pershing's Officers Club, which is the official page for Star Trek New Horizons, a written fan series that takes place after Deep Space Nine, talking about the reconstruction, dealing with the Romulans, the Cardassians, and the Klingons. What's going to happen then?
Very cool. Very cool. John, Wesley Huff, where can people find you online?
Well, I'm a member of the Facebook group, so you can definitely get me through there. And also on Twitter, I'm John Wesley Huff. It's pretty easy. It's my name. It's Jon Wesley Huff. So yeah, I sometimes post artwork and stuff for Discovery and different things. So yeah.
Very cool. Heather Barker, how about you?
I am LLA Posper on Twitter, and I am one of the admins of the Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group on Facebook. Look, I did it right.
Did it.
Alongside you, Jeff, where can people find you?
In the very same place as they can find you, Heather, in the same Facebook group that I'm not going to attempt to do. myself. 'Cause you just executed it perfectly. I'm also Warp Factor Jeff on Twitter. And if you want to talk to us as the show, we are at disco_trek on Twitter. Please send us your feedback and tweets. We'd love to talk to you. And you can find us online on our website, thetricordertransmissions.com. And I guess we will be back again next week. Next week we'll be back on Tuesday. This episode's launching a little bit late, so you'll get a double dose of DiscoTrek in a very short time here, as we'll be back on the air in a few days. So thanks again, everybody, for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys, and we'll see you guys next time on DiscoTrek.